It's beer o'clock on Real Ale Craft Beer. Today we've got a beer from Goose Island Brewery. This is AB InBev. This is their Tropic Beam Hazy IPA. Bright and juicy at 5.5% ABV in a 440ml can. It was launched into Morrisons. I picked it up in my local Morrisons. It was £3 a can. Without further ado, let's get it out into a glass and see what we get. It's strange, isn't it? I went into the introduction of this beer review. And I didn't really want to mention AB InBev, but I just had this impulse. AB InBev have probably owned Goose Island Beer Company longer than Goose Island Beer Company were probably independent. So they've been under the control of a large mega brewery now for well over a decade, I would say. Or maybe close to a decade. And it's interesting how much maybe things have changed over the years with Goose Island. It's interesting to try a new beer after the company's been owned by InBev for at least probably 10 years. How much kind of they're allowed to kind of do and brew and get away with in terms of producing a quality craft beer. Looking at the beer, I would say it's already, if you were to look at beers in 2022, they would definitely be lighter than this. They definitely have a little bit more of a lighter malt look to this. They would be straw coloured, whereas this is already looking like an amber coloured ale. The beer could be terrific. It really could be terrific. I would say this is what American craft beer looked like probably 10 years ago. American craft beer always had that orange hue to it. So maybe nothing's changed. Maybe this is what Goose Island wanted. This sort of kind of amber coloured ale. We got a one finger white head. Not much in the way of carb, but there's a little bit of carbonation making its way to the top of the glass. It's hazy amber in colour. Not much in the way of kind of bits and pieces floating around in the glass. Let's get the aroma. Tropic Beam. If you ever asked a big brewery to come up with a name for a craft beer in 2022, somebody like InBev or Heineken or one of the larger companies, they would probably come up with something like Tropic Beam. What is Tropic? It makes no sense, does it? What is a Tropic Beam? I'm not writing this beer off for 1 minute. I'm an independent beer reviewer. I'm just in a funny mood, I suppose. In terms of aroma, though, there's a little bit of grapefruit, there's a little bit of orange peel. Maybe the majority of the flavours are kind of tucked away inside the beer then. Let's dive in. Cheers, everybody. It's okay. It's okay. It's a little bit lackluster. It's a little bit... I mean, this was £3 a can. Let's not get away from this now. It's a 440ml can. AB InBev can probably produce this for 50p. They're selling it at £3. They're trying to sneak it into the kind of the supermarket craft beer shelves. And they're probably hoping that there's a few people who probably don't really know who Goose Island are, and they don't know that they're owned by the makers of Budweiser, some of the other larger kind of beer brands in the world. It's a bit lackluster, in all honesty. It's a bit rich, it's a bit creamy, it's a little bit sweet, it's not being overly bitter. There's a bit of stone fruit coming through, there's a bit of passion fruit, a bit of mango. It's not overly carbonated, in fact it's a little flat. Yeah. If this was £1.50 a can in somewhere like Home Bargains, I'd probably buy a couple of cans and sit in the garden and drink them. It's inoffensive beer. It's inoffensive beer. But in terms of like, I suppose they're way past the point, Goose Island beer now, where they want to be groundbreaking. They still make that really expensive stout, the Goose Island Bourbon County Stout. That's what they're kind of well known for now. That's when you think of Goose Island, that's probably all you think about. Goose Island IPA, that was really good when it was independent. It's not so good now. It's just really quite bland. It's inoffensive. There's no off flavours. There's nothing wrong with the beer. It's just not pulling me in any one direction. It's not wanting me to talk about kind of balance. It's not wanting me to talk about kind of different flavours in the beer, like passion fruit or mango and grapefruit and orange peel and fleshy blood orange, because it's just a generic kind of hop flavour. It's not an individual, lots of small individual hop flavours like you would get from, say, a microbrewery or a small regional brewery that are producing beers for the supermarkets. This is a little kind of sneaky, let's put this on the shelves, see if we can sell it at £3 a can to maybe people who don't really understand beer that much, but they like to try these different beers and they like to spend £3 on a can. But if you offered me this, or if you asked me to buy this again over something like cans from Northern Monk that are on the supermarket shelves, or even, I'd even prefer to buy a bottle of Whichwood's Dry Neck for £1 and drink that over this, because you're getting 500 millilitres of beer there. It's about 4.5%, 4%, something like that. And it's £1 a bottle, £1 a bottle. I would much prefer to buy Whichwood's Dry Neck over something like this. There's a danger, there's a danger that this was always going to happen, because you've got your supermarket beer, there's lots of cans now on the shelves. It's down to the consumer, really. It's down to you guys who are buying the beer to be able to decipher what's really good on the shelf and what's masquerading as craft. What we're seeing here with canned craft beer now in the UK, in the supermarket, is the same as the bottles, the 500ml bottles that are next to the cans of craft beer, where you might see a Worthington White Shield, that's Molson Coors, or you might see something else lurking in there which probably doesn't deserve to be there. It's a shame because I remember Goose Island when they were terrific. When they were absolutely terrific. Their IPA was good. I had a few of their pale ales and some of their other kind of like red ales and IPA. They were a terrific brewery. I was drinking their beer when it was independent American craft beer. In fact, I think Goose Island were probably one of the first craft brewers in America to kind of sell out to somebody like AB InBev. And then a trend was set then. A trend was set where a lot of these breweries began to sell their companies, which was for me a little bit of a shame, because if they held out a little bit longer, I feel they would have replaced your AB InBevs and your Heinekens anyway. If they stayed independent for another 5 years, I think the might, the togetherness, the might, the volume of beer, craft beer would have shifted, would have pushed these kind of Budweiser people to one side. You know, it was a change of the guard, if you like. It was like people weren't prepared to carry on drinking Budweiser anymore. They wanted to drink something with flavour. These American companies realised that. They started buying the craft brewers. They started showing the craft brewers their money. And I always found that a shame. I was always thinking to myself, yes, we're going to finally see the end of all of this terrible kind of lager. But yeah, they just used their money to buy the craft brewers and make very, very average at best craft beer. Shame. Shame really, but there we are, that's what it is. Would I buy it again for £3 a can? Absolutely not. No way. No way. It's not worth the money. Let there be light and juiciness, like a sunbeam bursting between clouds. Here's the marketing department talking now. This fruity IPA lights up your taste buds with a mellow sweetness that's as refreshing as a sunset stroll in a tropical storm. Yep. That's been dreamed up in the marketing department. It's a bit rubbish, really. It's a bit bland. It's a bit boring. Don't be fooled, people. That's my message to you. Don't be fooled by some of these companies masquerading as craft beer. This, for me, it's a 6 out of 10 at very best. I struggle to give that a 6 out of 10. I nearly said 5 out of 10. It's just bland, it's just boring. There's no real kind of flurry of hop flavours coming through. It's just a generic tropical hop that these breweries use these days. Some kind of liquid, sometimes some kind of hop concentrate or hop oil or some other thing that's been dreamt up as the future of craft beer. 6 out of 10. Please put your comments in the comments box. Subscribe to our daily beer and food reviews. Give us a big fat thumbs up. Boom. Cheers.